What if I told you that right now, beneath your feet, there is a living organism so massive it weighs as much as 1,000 elephants? Or that there's a place in America where the sand literally sings to you? Most people think they know the United States, the landmarks, the history, the cities. But beyond the tourist traps lies a version of America that feels like a glitch in the Matrix. Over the next 20 minutes, we're diving into 50 of the most mind-bending, that can't be real facts about the US that will change how you look at the map forever. And stick around, because the final fact on our list explains a phenomenon so rare, it turns the sky itself into a literal fire-breathing dragon. Fact 1. There is a place in Colorado where the earth has a voice. At Great Sand Dunes National Park, when the wind hits a certain speed or a traveler slides down a dune, the sand emits a deep, humming boom that can be heard for miles. It's called singing sand, and it happens because the specific shape of these grains creates a perfect acoustic vibration. It's like the desert is playing a giant, subterranean bass guitar. Fact 2. While the sand is singing, the sky is busy sculpting. When lightning strikes the dry dunes of the American West, it doesn't just disappear. It flash melts the silica into petrified lightning called fulgurites. These are hollow, glass tubes that mirror the path of the bolt, meaning you can literally hold the physical remains of a thunderstorm in the palm of your hand. Fact 3. If you think singing sand is weird, wait until you play the rocks. In Bucks County, Pennsylvania, there is a boulder field where the stones ring like church bells. At Ringing Rocks Park, if you strike a boulder with a hammer, it lets out a clear, metallic tone. Scientists are still baffled by the exact cause, but if you take a rock home, it loses its voice. It only sings when it's part of the field. Fact 4. Deep in the Fish Lake National Forest of Utah, you'll find what looks like a massive forest of 47,000 trees. But here's the kicker, they aren't separate trees. Known as Pando, this entire 100-acre grove is actually one single organism connected by a massive underground root system. Every single tree is a genetically identical clone. It's 80,000 years old, making it one of the oldest and heaviest living things on the planet. Fact 5. You don't need to go to South America to find a rainforest. Alaska is home to the Tongass National Forest, the largest temperate rainforest on Earth. It covers 17 million acres. Imagine a place where glaciers and rainforests meet. It's a lush, green world filled with 800-year-old trees that completely defies the frozen wasteland stereotype of the North. Fact 6. Nature has its own plumbing system, and sometimes it gets clogged. Off the coast of Maine, the tides are so powerful they create a massive whirlpool known as the Drain of the Sea. This isn't just a little ripple. It's a powerful vortex that looks like someone pulled the plug on the Atlantic Ocean. Fact 7. Speaking of drains, Oregon has a bottomless pit. It's called Thor's Well. During high tide, this gaping hole in the basalt rock appears to be swallowing the Pacific Ocean whole. The water rushes in with terrifying force, only to be spat back out in a 20-foot geyser seconds later. It's a perpetual motion machine of pure saltwater chaos. Fact 8. While nature is weird, American small towns might be weirder. Crystal Falls, Michigan, holds an annual festival for a fungus. They call it the Humungus fungus. It's a subterranean mushroom network that spans 37 acres. To celebrate, the town cooks a mushroom omelet in a pan so large they have to use literal garden shovels to flip it. Fact 9. If you prefer your food in a can, head to Hawaii. They have a festival dedicated entirely to Spam. Hawaii consumes more Spam per capita than anywhere else in the world, a cultural relic from World War II. That turned into a culinary obsession. They even make Spam sushi, which is surprisingly delicious. Fact 10. If you're enjoying these bizarre slices of Americana, hit that subscribe button right now. Join the community of the curious. It's free, and it helps us keep these stories coming. Fact 11. Imagine a music festival where the mosh pit requires an oxygen tank. In the Florida Keys, there is an underwater music festival. Speakers are suspended beneath boats, broadcasting music to divers and snorkelers, who play foam instruments like the barracuda lele. It sounds silly, but it's actually a serious effort to promote coral reef conservation. Fact 12. In Point Pleasant, West Virginia, they don't celebrate a mushroom. they celebrate a monster. The Mothman festival honors a red-eyed, winged creature that supposedly haunted the town in the 1960s. There's a chrome statue in the center of town, and every year thousands of people show up to celebrate a legend that bridges the gap between folklore and reality. Fact 13. New York has a town that is literally a bridge to the other side. Lilydale is a gated community that is home to the world's largest concentration of spiritual mediums. You can't even live there unless you're a practicing medium. It's a village where the primary industry is talking to people who aren't there. Fact 14. Most people think of the Great Plains as dry farmland, but you're actually standing on an ancient seabed. Millions of years ago, a western interior seaway split North America in two. Today, you can find shark teeth and seashells in the middle of a Kansas wheat field, 1,000 miles from the nearest beach. Fact 15. Everyone talks about the Grand Canyon, but it's not actually the deepest. Hell's Canyon, which carves through the border of Oregon and Idaho, is significantly deeper. At its lowest point, it drops nearly 8,000 feet, over half a mile deeper than the Grand Canyon. It's just so remote that most people never see it. Fact 16. The U.S. sits on a ticking time bomb, a beautiful one. Yellowstone National Park contains half of the world's geothermal features. It's essentially a giant lid on top of a supervolcano. Every time Old Faithful erupts, you're seeing the breath of a volcano that has the power to change the world's climate in a single day. Fact 17. Remember that Humungus fungus from Fact 8? It's not just big, it's a predator. This underground network actually hunts trees, slowly breaking them down from the roots up. The festival is a celebration, but to the forest, the fungus is the ultimate boss fight. Fact 18. On the coast of the Pacific Northwest, there are tide pools that look like alien planets. When the tide goes out, it leaves behind neon purple sea urchins and bright green anemones that look like flowers but eat like wolves. It's a miniature, high-stakes wilderness that resets twice a day. Fact 19. There are lightning fields in the southwest where you can find fulgurites by the thousands. Because the soil is so rich in specific minerals, the lightning strikes create unique colors of glass, blues, greens, and even blacks, making it a literal treasure hunt for frozen electricity. Fact 20. Pando, the giant clone tree, is often called the Trembling Giant because every tree is part of the same organism. When the wind blows, the leaves all quake in the exact same rhythm. It creates a shimmering, silver effect that makes the entire hillside look like it's vibrating with a single pulse. Fact 21. There's a firefall in Yosemite, but it's an illusion. For a few days in February, if the sun hits Horsetail Fall at the perfect angle, the water turns a glowing, molten orange. It looks like lava pouring off a cliff, but it's actually just a trick of the light. Fact 22. Mammoth Cave in Kentucky is so large that it has its own weather. It's the longest cave system in the world, with over 400 miles explored. It stays a constant 54 degrees year-round. Creating cave winds that blow out of the entrance like the earth is exhaling. Fact 23. Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico is basically an upside-down mountain range made of coral. It was formed 250 million years ago when the area was a coastline. The rocks you see are actually the remains of an ancient reef, now hanging from the ceiling like stone icicles. Fact 24. Colorado has a glitch in the landscape, where you can stand in 750-foot sand dunes while looking at snow-capped mountains. It looks like the Sahara Desert was copy-pasted onto the Swiss Alps. Fact 25. The U.S. is one of the only countries that contains every single climate zone on Earth. You can experience the Arctic in Alaska, the tropical in Hawaii, the Mediterranean in California, and the desert in Arizona, all without a passport. This incredible diversity is why the U.S. has such weird natural phenomena. The strangest fact is still coming. Fact 26. People are obsessed with Thor's well, the ocean drain, but it's actually incredibly dangerous. The well is actually a sea cave whose roof collapsed. If you fall in, there's no way out. The currents will pull you into a jagged, underwater labyrinth. Fact 27. The booming sound of the singing sands is so loud it has been compared to the sound of a low-flying plane. Some cultures believed it was the voice of spirits, but it's actually the sound of friction between grains of a very specific size and roundness. Fact 28. There is a Bermuda Triangle in New England called the Bridgewater Triangle. It's a 200-square-mile area in Massachusetts where people have reported everything from Bigfoot sightings to UFOs and giant, prehistoric-sized birds. Whether you believe it or not, it's one of the most studied paranormal hotspots in the country. Fact 29. Death Valley contains a place called Badwater Basin, the lowest point in North America. It's 282 feet below sea level. If you look up at the cliffs nearby, there is a sign marking sea level. It's so high up it makes you feel like you're standing at the bottom of a dry ocean. Fact 30. In some parts of Florida, lakes can disappear overnight. Because the state is built on a limestone Swiss cheese foundation, sinkholes can open up at the bottom of a lake and drain millions of gallons of water into the aquifer in a matter of hours. Fact 31. If you're still watching, it's because you love the weird side of our world. We're coming up on the final stretch where the facts get even more unbelievable. If you're finding this valuable, sharing this video with one friend who loves trivia helps us more than you know. Now, back to the mystery. Fact 31. If you're still watching, it's because you love the weird side of our world. We're coming up on the final stretch where the facts get even more unbelievable. If you're finding this valuable, sharing this video with one friend who loves trivia helps us more than you know. Now, back to the mystery. Fact 32. The oldest living things in America aren't the redwoods. They're the bristlecone pines in California's White Mountains. Some of these trees were saplings when the Great Pyramid of Giza was being built. They've been alive for nearly 5,000 years, surviving on almost no water in high-altitude moonscapes. Fact 33. The U.S. holds the Triple Crown of trees. It has the tallest coast redwoods, the largest by volume, giant sequoias, and the oldest bristlecone pines. It's the ultimate heavyweight champion of the plant kingdom. Fact 33. The U.S. holds the Triple Crown of trees. It has the tallest coast redwoods, the largest by volume, giant sequoias, and the oldest bristlecone pines. It's the ultimate heavyweight champion of the plant kingdom. Fact 34. Along the Oregon coast, there are spouting horns. These are holes in the rock that act like a whale's blowhole. When a wave hits, the pressure forces a plume of water 50 feet into the air with a sound like a cannon blast. Fact 35. At craters of the moon in Idaho, the landscape is so bizarre and volcanic that NASA used it to train Apollo astronauts. They wanted the moonwalkers to practice on the most alien terrain they could find on Earth. Fact 35. At craters of the moon in Idaho, the landscape is so bizarre and volcanic that NASA used it to train Apollo astronauts. They wanted the moonwalkers to practice on the most alien terrain they could find on Earth. Fact 36. Back at the Ringing Rocks in Pennsylvania, researchers discovered that if you hit a ringing rock, it vibrates at a frequency higher than the human ear can hear, which is why the sound is so metallic. If you saw through one, it looks like a normal rock. The secret is in the internal tension of the minerals. Fact 37. Hawaii is the only state that is constantly growing. Because of the Kilauea volcano, new land is being created every day as lava hits the ocean and hardens. Hawaii is essentially a construction project that's been running for millions of years. Fact 37. Hawaii is the only state that is constantly growing. Because of the Kilauea volcano, new land is being created every day as lava hits the ocean and hardens. Hawaii is essentially a construction project that's been running for millions of years. Fact 38. There are dark sky parks in the U.S., like Cherry Springs in Pennsylvania, where light pollution is so low you can see your own shadow cast by the light of the Milky Way. Most Americans have never seen a truly dark sky. Here, the stars look like spilled salt on a black tablecloth. Fact 38. There are dark sky parks in the U.S., like Cherry Springs in Pennsylvania, where light pollution is so low you can see your own shadow cast by the light of the Milky Way. Most Americans have never seen a truly dark sky. Here, the stars look like spilled salt on a black tablecloth. Fact 39. In the town of Churchill, many people don't realize that parts of the U.S. are actually further north than parts of Canada. Because of the way the border zigzags, there are pockets of the U.S. that feel like the edge of the world. Fact 40. The Big Room in Carlsbad Caverns is the largest single cave chamber in North America. You could fit 6 football fields inside it. The scale is so massive that it has its own microclimate, and for decades, there was a literal lunchroom built deep inside the cave. Fact 40. The Big Room in Carlsbad Caverns is the largest single cave chamber in North America. You could fit 6 football fields inside it. The scale is so massive that it has its own microclimate, and for decades, there was a literal lunchroom built deep inside the cave. Fact 41. There is a phenomenon in the Arctic regions of Alaska called pingos. These are giant mounds of earth with a core of ice. They grow over centuries, sometimes reaching the size of small hills, and then explode when the ice melts, leaving behind a perfectly circular crater lake. Fact 42. The singing sands of Colorado aren't just loud, they're also picky. They only sing when the moisture content is below 1%. A single rainstorm can mute the dunes for days. Fact 43. The fog in San Francisco is so famous it has a name, Carl. But the fog in the Maine woods is different. It's called sea turn. It can drop the temperature by 20 degrees in seconds, turning a summer afternoon into a chilly autumn evening instantly. Fact 44. Inside Carlsbad Caverns, there is a formation called the bottomless pit. For years, people thought it went to the center of the earth. When they finally measured it with modern equipment, they found it was only 140 feet deep, but in the pitch black, it looks like forever. Fact 45. The largest lava lake in the world was recently active in Hawaii's Halimumiu crater. It was a literal lake of molten rock, 100 acres across, that churned and bubbled like a witch's cauldron. You could stand on the rim and feel the heat from a mile away. Fact 46. There is a river in Florida, the St. Johns River, that flows north. Most people think all rivers flow south, but gravity doesn't care about the compass. It's one of the only major rivers in the US to do this, dropping only 30 feet in elevation over its 310-mile journey. Fact 47. There are islands in the Chesapeake Bay, like Tanier Island, where the residents speak with an accent that sounds like 17th century Elizabethan English. Because they were so isolated for hundreds of years, their language froze in time. Fact 47. There are islands in the Chesapeake Bay, like Tanier Island, where the residents speak with an accent that sounds like 17th century Elizabethan English. Because they were so isolated for hundreds of years, their language froze in time. Fact 48. In the Lost River of West Virginia, the water simply disappears into a hole in the ground and travels through a mountain for 2 miles before popping out on the other side. If you drop a rubber ducky in one end, it'll eventually find its way back to the sunlight. Fact 49. Lake Peigneur in Louisiana once disappeared in a literal giant whirlpool. An oil rig accidentally drilled into a salt mine beneath the lake, creating a drain. The resulting vortex swallowed the rig, 11 barges, and 65 acres of land. It even made the canal flow backward. Fact 50. The most shocking fact of all, in the Yosemite Valley, during the winter, you can witness snow ghosts. These are trees completely encased in rime ice until they look like giant, white statues. But when the wind catches the ice crystals just right at sunset, it creates a fire rainbow, a rare atmospheric phenomenon where the clouds look like they are made of literal liquid neon. It's a moment where physics and beauty collide to create something that looks like a different dimension. From singing sands to disappearing lakes, America is far weirder than the postcards suggest. It's a land where the earth breathes, the rocks ring, and the trees have memories older than civilization. The next time you take a road trip, remember, the most incredible things are often the ones you have to look twice to believe. Which of these facts blew your mind the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you're ready for more mysteries, check out our next video right here. Stay curious,